right. Welcome, decomposers. It's time for Decomposing Live number 5. I'm gonna suspect that a lot of people are probably watching that debate right now. And oh boy, it's a doozy. Let's, if you haven't already been cracking them open because of that one, let's open one up now, please, because. Because, man, I just need to relax after dealing with whatever is happening. So let's just hang out and talk about skills, right? If you need to decompress and decompose a little bit after bearing witness to that and you're taking a break, which I would advise you to do, then you've come to the right place here. I want to talk about skills today. We got to talk about the skills to pay the bills. I don't really actually fully know what that means. I guess it's saying like if you have enough skills, you can pay bills about it. Yeah, dude, that's dude. Wings above, always here. Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's been a hell of a day. It was just a hell of a moment. Everything was going really good, and then I turned on some of that stuff. Oh man, look at this very exciting brush that's going on right now. You guys see that shit? That's a crazy one. Let's get the right brush going. We want to talk about skills and skill checks. Skills and skill checks are one of those really interesting kind of things because, in game design, people talk about them a lot as people make RPGs and everything, especially a lot of the OSR types. Hope everybody's messaging me. Everybody's talking about stuff. Oh man. Okay, so let's get something going. Let's make it nice. I gotta channel my inner Bob Ross and just relax after having listened to some of the stuff that was being said. So with that in mind, let's talk about skill checks. Let me open up a big list of skills here. Let's find them. Skills are one of those things that they sort of come and go. They get added and taken away from, and some places do away with skills entirely. Others don't. Others have these massive, giant skill lists. I do feel a little bit like some of the gigantic, totally massive lists of skills. I think some of that stuff is sort of behind us. I might be wrong. I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate, but let's get. I really just want to draw like some obstacles. I think it would be fun to draw like just some cool components today. Maybe I'm not. It's not like I'm really great at them or anything like that, but maybe we'll start off. Let's think about athletics here. Let's start off with athletics. So draw something that kind of means athletics. So we have a lot of skills. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, quite a bit of skills going on there. A nice list. One of the things that I always thought was interesting in 5th edition here is I don't know how much of an attempt they really made to balance out like what ability ties to which skill, right? So I think maybe they probably did a better job of this than what they did in like 3rd edition, right? But right, there's only one strength skill. There are 3 dexterity skills. There are 4 intelligence skills. There are 5 wisdom skills, and there are 4 charisma skills, right? So, maybe they kind of did. Maybe they tried to like weight them a little bit by what they felt like was already getting used the most or used a lot. And strength gets used quite a bit if you are a melee character, right? You're going to be making a ton of attack rolls. Um, if you're a melee character, same thing goes for dexterity, right? That's going to be the next most used thing, is dex. So you have less skills for those things. But then there is absolutely no Constitution skills. Is that what I'm seeing? Just no skills for Constitution. That's kind of crazy. That seems a little bit weird to me. Like you couldn't scrape your vocabulary to find one thing that you think would be tied to your Constitution. So that's kind of strange. Back in the day, concentration was related to your Constitution in third edition, and I don't really think that makes any goddamn sense, right? There's not a lot of sense to that, I suppose. I think that would be more of like a wisdom, focusy kind of thing. I guess they tried to make it more about like toughness. No, I don't like that shoulder. No. Like just kind of sitting there and enduring, and that was, concentration. Um, but why do we really have these things? What kind of purpose do they serve? And then how can we take them and make sure that we utilize them in a way that is going to be interesting and beneficial? Make us run a game that's fun for all of our players. Okay? So I'm working on this athletics guy. I want to draw like a kind of crazy looking... I'm going to get back to drawing on this page. I've been trying to do too much of a like virtual whiteboard thing, and I'm just not into it. It's kind of cool sometimes, but I think for the most part, it's more fun to just doodle. Get this guy some big beefy arms, right? If there's one thing that I learned from Homestar Runner, it would have to be the importance of drawing characters with big beefy arms. Does anybody know what's going on with that dude from Homestar Runner? Like, is he okay? Like, I hope he's still around. He's really good. Definitely an inspiration. Like, kids these days might have like grown up with YouTube, but coming up with Homestar Runner was just as good. If we're gonna be serious, if we're gonna have real talk about it, I don't have any problems with that. If I could, like, if half of YouTube could fall off, that would be okay as long as we still get to keep Homestar. Including me. Like, I'll go away if we could just all have Homestar Runner going again. Because that would just solve so much. I'll give this guy some thighs, man. But, yeah, so we've got these skills. We've got a bunch of them. They're tied to different abilities, and they help shape out your character. They let them know what they're going to be good at, maybe what they're not so good at. Get this dude, man, look at those legs, dude, beefy legs. Beefy legs is like an underrated drawing style, I think. And they flesh out your character, which in my opinion is a big deal whenever you're trying to design the character that you want to make. It gives you an idea for who they are. Oh, that's awesome. Good. I'm glad that they are still doing things. That's really good for me. That's really good to know. Because Homestar Runner was just like, it was so ahead of its time, right? Like, in my opinion, looking at like what we have now, like, but these skills, right? They kind of help you flesh out who your character is and what they're good at. You just get a good feel for how your character might be or who you want them to be whenever you get to say like, okay, they're really good at athletics, so they can jump and swim and climb and do all those sort of things. But you know what they're not good at? Paying attention. So they're really bad at paying attention. So let's not give them any bonus to their insight or like perception and things like that, right? Um, and it helps you like flesh out your character. Now, the obvious problem here that I think everybody kind of could talk about is it's kind of exploitable. Like if you're just trying to win at D&D, which I know in at least in some place where I posted the link to watch this video. I don't know if people know that I'm joking when I talk about winning D&D, but I'm also only like half kidding. So, yeah, like if you want to win at D&D, you better have a good perception roll, right? If your dungeon master's not making you, if your dungeon master's not having you roll like perception a lot, maybe you're kind of missing out. I don't know. Or at least that's how it sort of used to be. I try to kind of avoid it now, I suppose. Concentration tied to constitution made a lot more sense when someone pointed out to me that hot points aren't just meat points. Yeah, that's true. Um, but you got to have things like perception. You got to be able to like those are your skills. These are how you like interact in the world, um, with stuff, right? It's like, do I see what's going on? Like in this world that we're making up, you have to have something that dictates like what you're able to perceive and interact with, so on and so forth. So perception is huge. Insight is another one that I tend to use a lot, right? I think insight is good for whenever you want to give hints, right? Insight should be like how, as the dungeon master, you can give hints to your players who might be like missing out on some stuff, or whenever there's like some good information that you want to reveal. I'm kind of curious as to how some people use um, insight, if they use it in a way that's different than that. Like, maybe they read something like the players like sort of like find a book or like a piece of scripture and it has like a really cryptic note, and it's like the wizard says that the black moss is potent or something like that, like some kind of like random seemingly like unimportant sort of detail. But then, like, 2 games ago, the players were supposed to have learned that, the black moss is what the wizard uses in their, like, rituals to do some crazy stuff, right? So it's things that the players should have learned, and hopefully, that you hope that they remember them, but, they don't always remember them. So you use insight then, you have them roll that insight check, and it's like, oh, that this jogs your memory. You kind of remember back to that letter, and it's kind of fun. Get this guy. Yeah. So I should have made him doing something. I'm gonna make him do a thing here. Do another guy. Kind of a cool guy. He's not doing anything very athletic. He was just standing there. That's kind of messed up. Let's give him a dumbbell. Let's make him do like a nice shoulder press. Get rid of both of his arms. It's going to be a military press. Get him going. But yeah, so that's athletics. And oh man, drawing and talking at the same time is hard. There we go. Look at that. Gives you some connectors. That's what I like to draw. I like to draw like little lines just coming out the side. Just connect that. There we go. Here. He's already being way more athletic than what he was. So, skills though, they flesh out our characters. I think that's what I'm trying to say, right? Whether you want them to be, the perfect athlete or hyper perceptive, or of course, there's that good old one that always causes all the problems, and that's the deception roll and the sleight of hand roll, right? Those two are always going to get people into trouble, players and DMs, right? There's always that one guy that wants to steal from everybody all the time. It's kind of unavoidable. It's not unavoidable. It's a phase, I think, is what it is. Eventually, I think once you've played long enough, and sort of like once you realize that it kind of upsets people sometimes, like the uh, the player who's always trying to sleight of hand stuff, right? There's always that one guy who wants to like pick the pockets of people on their team. It's like, dude, that is entirely the wrong group. Like, pick the pockets of literally anybody else except the people you're adventuring with. And I guess you could make like an argument that it's going to make an interesting character interaction, but you know, you have to you that's a conversation that you as a player should also go ahead and have with that player and be like, hey, is it kind of cool if I like try to steal stuff off of you occasionally, and then like everybody should kind of be made aware that that's something that you want to try to do for fun. Because it can be kind of a dick move, right? And I think that if everybody like knows and is in on it, then everybody can have fun as you do it, right? If it's just like surprising and you're gonna start stealing stuff off of people, it's much more jarring. But I think it can be handled in a way that's fun, and then like maybe it allows for players to grow to form some kind of trust or distrust, or then it may, if everybody's cool with it and they all know it, can make for a cool interaction. You just bring it on people, then their gut response isn't going to be from like their perspective as a character, but from just like their perspective as a human being, and it's like, this guy's trying to take stuff from me. That's not cool. So that is the good old sleight of hand for you, though. It just kind of can definitely set people off on the wrong place. There's athletics. Let's talk about it. Bang. Athlete. And then, I just said all that, and of course I actually have a player in one of my games who kind of steals stuff from players, or tries to. Kind of does that like a lot. It's kind of funny. I don't know if he's really made off with anything like that was another player's. He's tried to pull some shady stuff, but that's okay. Maybe he'll listen to this and he'll learn and be like, oh man, that's actually like a good point. And that's cool. But other stuff, moving along. Let's do another skill up here. Beep. What's another fun skill? Medicine, right? Medicine's a good one. Medicine is kind of like an underused skill check, I think. Medicine, because people get healed, right? Like there's healing in D&D, so it's like, what do I need medicine for? Could be an interesting thing, like, if you wanted to talk to it about your players, and maybe like you have it where a player can improve their healing roll if they make a like their spellcasting healing roll if they make like a medicine check first or something like that, right? Or have, I don't know if this is cool or not. People might think this is cool. It might be overly complicated, but have like the amount that they're able to heal someone based off of their medicine roll and not the spell, right? But the fact that you have the spell lets you make a magical sort of medicine roll where it's like you set the bone back into place, or you like actually sit down and give somebody stitches. See, I like those things. I like it when just healing in general is something that I kind of have a problem with, because it's like too easy, right? We're just so used to it in video games. Dude, I was literally just talking to you, man. I was just talking about you, East Coast Eagle. Thanks for coming in, dude. No, I'm sorry. I was picking on Severo a little bit. So, East Coast Eagle is in one of my games. He's in Lands Above, and he plays Severo, and sometimes he like picks people's pockets and stuff. And oh yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, skill overlap, right? That's a great point. The swappability of skills. I'm trying to think of a cool picture here. Oh, I should do like a stitch. That's what I'll do. The swappability of skills. So I like what I think is cool. What what I think is cool is like when a player comes up with a really interesting way to use a skill that is maybe not like super far fetched. What I mean by like super far fetched is like it's like okay, again I'm thinking of like third edition where it's like I want to use my pickpocket roll to like I just have pickpocket because I can use that skill for anything because why disable a device whenever I could just steal the lock straight out of the like socket or like not things like that, but I'm trying to think of good examples now. Rather than maybe rather than like making some kind of like strength based or constitution based saving throw, maybe instead the player wants to use like athletics or something like that because the check is involving I don't know, something that is a little bit more like athletics related. Trying to think of other stuff. These come up all the time, and I encourage people to do them. Like if you can use a skill in a really really creative way that is not the same method that you would normally use that skill, I think it's all for it. And I also think you should be able. I also think that skills, and this is probably where it really comes up. Skills probably shouldn't just be always tied to one ability score, right? Classic case for this is intimidation. You know, a lot of people who I find are very intimidating are definitely not charismatic, right? They're scary people. They're scary people who, you know, look like they can beat you up, right? And a lot of times, they might actually turn out to be just like a really shy person, and they just kind of look sort of mean, right? And part of their intimidation factor is like playing into their like part of the reason is because they're shy is because people think they're mean and then people don't like want to maybe talk to them or something, like that definitely is a thing that happens and it sucks. But yeah, so I think that you should be able to swap out abilities for sure when you're using skills. Again, the difference between athletics, right? Like, why do I just have to use strength for my athletics? There's a million different kinds of sports out there that don't require strength at all, like, but are definitely very, very, very athletic, nonetheless. Um, so I think allowing your players to be like, I would like to use my dexterity roll. I would like to use my athletics and dexterity to, um, leap across, or maybe not leap, because that would be like more of a strengthy thing. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? Maybe I think creative skill checks like that is where you can get some interesting overlap and have some fun with it, kind of open things up. He's trying to get this. This is not how a sewing needle looks whenever you go to stitch something up. They're normally like curved, but that's okay. So we'll do that. Do Madison here. Like it would be cool to make a Constitution medicine roll because you're doing like 12 hours of surgery or like something crazy, right? That's kind of interesting. Kind of different. Also, you wouldn't want to sew somebody up like varying your stitches. I don't think that's how it works either. Oh man. But yeah, like definitely if you I think there's a thing athletics used for yeah, long distance running and athletics in con is huge, right? I mean they have a whole separate acrobatics skill that is dex based. um if you wanted to combine your skills, athletics as a big kind of overarching thing, and then you don't really need acrobatics anymore. Okay. Didn't realize crab cakes was in here. Okay. Beep beep beep. But another cool thing, then this is a GM side thing, like player side thing. If it's cool with your DM and you find like a really cool fitting way to like use something, not because that don't do it because it's going to give you your better bonus. That might be a side thing. Do it because it is going to be really, really cool. You know, that's whenever you want to interject, like, and sort of say, like, hey, can I use my strength to do this intimidation roll? Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up like a rock and I'm just going to like crush it in my hands first as like a way to intimidate somebody. That's awesome. You should totally do that thing. Or like, intimidating somebody by like arm wrestling them, or like um you know, intimidating them with like your intelligence or something, right? You just like tell them something that is so crazy, something that they didn't like think of, that it just sort of blows their mind, and now they're like, "Oh, dude, I can't even handle this guy." Um, that's I like that stuff. I think people should do it, and I think that should be more embraced in 6th edition. I bet we see something like that in 6th edition. And because of these overlaps and these sort of like interchangeable bits, we see that a lot of like the OSR games don't even have skills, right? I'm pretty sure Five Torches Deep. Five Torches Deep is a pretty popular OSR game, right? OSR means old school Renaissance, and that means it's trying to harken back to those old days of dungeon delving, and some of it's really cool. I think the best way to look at OSR versus like modern stuff is like OSR should all be about problem solving, right? Big focus on problem solving, less focus on combat, which is great, and that plays into this idea of like, how am I going to use this particular skill to get me out of this situation? How am I going to use this random ass item that I've had hanging out in my bag for 4 weeks to get me out of this situation? Doing all that cool MacGyver stuff, right? Everybody knows MacGyver. Hope we all know. OSR is all about doing MacGyver stuff, I think. Whereas sometimes these, 5th edition Pathfinder, it can be a little bit about getting the biggest bonus and killing monsters, which is still totally a lot of fun, but very different in feel. Beep beep beep. Let's see, what's another goodie that we can do? Oh man, animal handling, right? Animal handling is also wisdom, right? Which is interesting. I think that you should be able to do animal handling with your charisma entirely based on how well you can go pss, 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 to a cat and like get them to follow you for the rest of the day or something. Or like, how cheerfully you can pass an acorn to a squirrel and make them a friend or something. I don't know. It used to be charisma in 3rd edition, but you should be able to maybe use strength as animal handling or dexterity, right? Like if you're doing some actual like rodeo stuff, oh, that's what we need to draw in here, right? If I'm doing like some rodeoing, this isn't my first rodeo, but it is the first time I've ever tried to draw like a cow or some kind of thing. This isn't going to be a cow because oh my god, it's scary. It looks like a possum. It's got a face like a possum. You give him some horns though, let you know that he's like some kind of cattle. Lands Below players, they've been in underneath this mountain, and there's supposed to be mountain cattle, or like these kind of like underground mountain goat things. This is definitely going to be one of those. And if the Devargir had, it depends on the animal, exactly, right? Like, you might have to wrestle an alligator. Like, animal handling with an alligator, like, what, dude? You're not going to use your charisma on that thing that is basically a dinosaur. But you can totally Steve Irwin that thing and, like, kind of get it in a little bit of a headlock. That's cool. I think that's kind of fun. Man, rodeos. Gotta get some Get a boot over here. This is like supposed to be a boot. This is not gonna be a good drawing. All right. I bet the Devargir, if they had time for like recreation, they would do this, right? They would do like rodeo stuff. I could totally see that as being like a thing. Um, so we're talking about all these skills, how there's a whole bunch of them. Now, as a dungeon master, as someone who's going to be writing adventures and preparing to run a game where players are going to be making all kinds of skill checks and stuff, um, we want to plan for that, right? If you're planning your own very cool homebrew adventure, this one of the places I like to start, or at least reference along the way, is that list of skills, right? So I probably get some kind of crazy idea like, wouldn't it be fun if everybody like went underneath a mountain and got imprisoned by like like some kind of strange earth elemental genie, um, and then he like forced everybody to like party with him and stuff, which is kind of what happened in the lands below. Um, it wasn't exactly like that. It was actually very different, but sort of. I'll give him little pupils. So you get those kind of ideas. You get your like overarching idea a lot of the time. At least I do. Something that I want to make happen. And then let's give him like little stick legs. That would be cool, right? Maybe the underground goats just have like six legs, right? They just have like six cow legs, just like kind of fat at the top, and then like knobby little knees, and then like tiny hooves. Oh, it's creepy. Um, what makes it creepier too is if you just give him. Oh, here we go. I'll go back. Make him scary. Make him a scary guy. What's gonna make him really scary is when you just give him some human hands, right? Human hands at the bottom. I just watched Monsters Inc. yesterday, and the dude who is like the boss of Monsters Inc. I can't has a really crazy name. It's like River Noose or like Water Noose. Um, Water Noose, right? Which is a really cool last name for a character in like a kid show. Um, but also he just has like seven like chitinous fingers, and it's pretty scary. I really liked it. Like that they gave him all those extra fingers, especially in like a cartoon, in like something animated, where in animation usually you take away a finger, right? It's like classic sign of American animation. Um, but yeah. So you get your initial idea. I'm sorry, guys, my brain's a little bit scrambled today, especially after watching that portion of the debate. Um, but you get your idea, and then it's good to consult the skill list, and then just go down the skill list and just be like, okay, well, I've got this situation. How's everybody going to make an acrobatics check or a sleight of hand check? How am I going to get a knowledge or a nature check in here? How are we going to be throwing animal handling in here? And then just come up with little opportunities within your scenario here, to let them make those rolls. And it's as easy as that. And there's like several skills, right? There's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17. There's 18 skills, right? There's 18 skills. You just got to come up with 18 things, and there you go. That could pretty much be your adventure right there, almost. And obviously, you don't have to use all of them, and there's going to be more checks that come up. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it. Never mind. But that could be your adventure right there, is that just making those kind of skill checks, right? And then it's kind of balanced. People who might not be so great at combat get a chance to flex their skills. Those skill monkey characters out there. Oh, dude, yeah. Strange fingers. All right. Okay, this thing I've looked at this guy too long, and it's actually really scaring me at this point. I have to get rid of it. It's oh man. Okay, I'm gonna delete that layer. I don't ever want to see it again. Actually. Oh, right. Let's pop open something else. Okay. Yeah, so that's a nice little trick right there for DMs is just go through the skill list, figure out how people can use each skill, It could be as simple as that. And when you do something like that, that's called it's not called burp. It's called like design. It's called top up design, right? Or bottom up design. Sorry, right? You got bottom up, you got top down. Commonly used kind of terms in design, right? When you design something from the bottom up in like game design sort of stuff, that usually means that you're starting with the mechanical side first, right? So it's like I'm looking at the mechanics, the crunchy numbers, and I'm getting inspired to, build something up from there. How am I going to take this math and make it into fun? Right? That's bottom up. And then of course the opposite is top down, where you're like, dude, I've got a sick, it's usually something like you have a dream last night, and you're on an airship, and you're fighting ninja robots made out of pizza, and it's like real crazy, and there's all this wild stuff, and then you take that and then you say, okay, wow, that was really cool, but how am I going to give that rules, right? And that's designing from the top down, right? Um, and you do both, right? It's not like you're not one or the other. It's not something like that. It's just sort of like sometimes it helps to recognize certain things in your design flow and to have like names and sort of like associative things to go along with them. Just helps you in your overall design process. I think sometimes that maybe overall I do maybe a little bit more bottom up sort of stuff. That's literally where I got those terms from. Wings above about that. I think I've probably seen that exact talk. Yes. Um, yeah, and that's where I heard. I'm pretty sure that's where I heard those terms from before, and it's a really good video, and it's good to listen to the people from like Magic, which are also Wizards of the Coast, right? But I'm sure it's completely different people. But Magic's been around a really long time. It's a super popular game, and they still keep it like relevant and exciting and really fun. So, you know, it might be a different game, but there's definitely like if you have a good way of designing something, if you have a good plan, a good process, that's very translatable, right? Might not be the exact same techniques, but those overarching ideas of how you're gonna step into and design stuff. I mean, if you got a good workflow, you got a good workflow. Um, which is something I wish I had because, as we're all seeing here now, I am wondering what is next. What else can we talk about here? Let's talk about some more stuff. Oh, oh. I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, everybody. I'm a little bit like surprised today because so far I haven't like done something really dumb like unplug my microphone or like disconnect the Wacom tablet or like, I haven't completely broken my laptop, or just like things that I usually do on a weekly basis. Tonight it's just like just dealing with regular things. Um, yeah. Real quick, here's a question for you guys. Here's a question. You all ever do the thing where I think a lot of people have done it. I know I did it a lot, but like it's yeah, good point. Good point. It is not too late for me to make some kind of critical technological error here. Have you ever done the thing where you just sort of say like maybe you're like walking down the street or something and you trip and you're just thinking like, oh man, I totally like failed my perception roll, or like you think about like the real world in D&D terms, or you like you drink too much and you start like puking and you're like, I failed my Constitution save, and you ever think about that stuff? So I hope you've all done that, and it's not just me. And I know other people do it though, because I know with my friends we used to joke around with that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of pretty common for D&D players, is to bring up like, at some point you're gonna have a conversation with your D&D friends about what your real life statistics are, and that's kind of what I'm curious about. Just maybe tell some stories. Has anybody got a really great skill check story where they were like, oh man, I totally just aced my whatever roll, or like, oh no, I totally just failed my I hope it's not like I just failed my medicine roll, or like something like really crucial, or something like that. But if you have a great story, I'd love to hear it. um, what skill check stories do I have? I can tell you guys, all right, this is a good one. I am getting better at my animal handling skills. I'm not good with animals. I didn't grow up with animals. I didn't have me. I was too irresponsible, right? Me and my brother were both like, we were too busy fighting each other to like have other life forms in the house, So it was just like me, mom, dad, my brother, and then like we would talk sometimes about like, we want a puppy. We would get that idea, and then like my dad would just be like, no, and then we were like, okay, actually, yeah, you're right. That makes a lot of sense. So, um, but I definitely feel like I'm getting better with it. Like my girlfriend, her parents, they in her house, they just got a lot of animals and stuff. Got dogs, got cats, and yeah, it's just something I never really like grew up around. But they used to bother me. I used to. Oh, that's another good point too, right? I never really liked dogs a whole lot because I had a paper route for a long time. Maybe we can do this. Do like a I can't draw dogs. I can't really draw. I can't really draw most things. We can do like a nasty thing. So I had a paper route for a long time, right? And I got bit at least once by pretty much every dog in the neighborhood. So, I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's just dogs don't like me, or they didn't. Um, so never really liked animals for that reason, because they were always biting me and stuff. But getting better with them. So that's my improvement to my handle animal story. I enjoy pets. I think it's cool. I used to think that it was weird that people kept animals as pets. Just kind of like I don't know. Sometimes I would say that and people get like really offended by it. It's like, I don't know, man. I just didn't understand it. I didn't grow up with it. But now I do. It makes a lot of sense. I think pets are awesome. I think it's really cool. Oh man, look at this guy. He's got like a snout, His legs are strange, right? I'm doing this weird, strange animal leg thing. I should look at animal legs more often. I should pay attention to that stuff. Uh, yeah, if you say charisma is your highest stat, charisma is your highest stat. If you say intelligence is your highest stat, intelligence is your lowest stat, dude. Yeah, that's about right, honestly. We That's another good D&D thing that probably has happened. I'm sure that everybody has maybe done at least once. Um, throw, yeah, just say, I don't know. Tell me tell me what character class you played whenever one of your buddies or yourself was like, okay, we're all gonna play a game of D&D, but we're all gonna just base it off of ourselves, right? You guys ever do that one? That's another good one. We used to do that with D20 Modern. We used to play not a lot of D20 Modern, but probably more D20 Modern than what most people played. Because we always used to love to run like zombie games or like things like that. D20 Modern, I appreciate it. I'm glad that they like tried to make it happen. Let's. This is good. There's an encounter that I like to run. It's sort of like a. It's not like a full dungeon. It's sort of like an encounter, but there's an encounter that I like to run. Maybe Lands Above people, you guys might get this eventually here, but do it as like a little spoiler, like a little spooky spoiler, to get in that Halloween spirit. But you come into this grove, right, and then there's this tree that's preaching to these animals, and then as you get closer, there's some animals that there's actually like a lot of animals sitting around and like watching, and they all sort of like are sitting in like pews, right, like wooden like pews, like a church, and all of the animals have like one human characteristic, like a finger, or like human ears, or like a nose or something like that. And it's kind of creepy. It's kind of weird. The Lands Below players totally like bypassed that adventure because they just came off of like another pretty rough like wilderness adventure. So they saw these animals with like fingers and toes and stuff, and they were just like, nah, we're good. And they kind of bypassed it, which was funny because that was what I thought we were going to be running that night. Like I was totally ready to run this session based on that, based on their interactions with it, and then they just bypassed it. So it was cool. I like it. I like it when stuff doesn't go according to plan and turns out to be more interesting. Okay. Sorry about my dog. Sorry about that picture. Let's do something else. Let's do another one. There's nothing so confirming of what your relative cha is with other people as getting on stage in front of an audience. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's super true. Yeah, absolutely. Being on stage is huge. And I think that's another thing that, I see it now too. Like as a teacher, still said, dude, yeah, we can go back. You guys could just go back into the woods and go exploring or something. But maybe you'll just leave it for like Lands Above, right? When the Lands Above players make it down to the Lands Below, that would be really fun, guys. The big crossover event, we'll have to talk about it. The big crossover event where like one team is traveling down through the mountains and the other team is like traveling up through the mountains, and I don't think it should be like a big it shouldn't be like a whole session. It should just be like that moment in Shaun of the Dead where like Shaun passes by like his ex-girlfriend who has an entire group of people with her that looks like there's like a mirror image of somebody else like in that group, and they just sort of like walk past each other and like greet each other, and then they just keep going. Yeah, you guys skipped Darvis Pass. That was cool. But very, very excited. A lot of good stuff happening. Okay. I'm not drawing fast enough. I got to draw some more stuff for you. Can I open anything? Oh, let me show off. I could probably show off a couple pictures maybe. Let's talk about it. We'll talk about some things. We'll talk about the Superior Spherical Sovereign. Oh god, surprise. We'll just talk about this guy real quick because he was in Lands Below on the weekend. So about like, being trapped underneath the mountains and being forced to party with like a earth genie. In Lands Below, the party has been traveling through the mountains for quite some time, and they finally like were almost ready to get to the other side of the mountains, like straight up, like Mines of Moria kind of stuff, and they they encountered the Devargir, right? And the Devargir love working, and one issue that the Devargir were having is like they were kind of having their labor severely exploited by a dude named the Superior Spherical Sovereign, who is like this scary Humpty Dumpty guy, um, who walks around on these tiny mechanical arms because again, tiny arms, guys, tiny little arms is the worst. So I just fully embraced that, made sure that he had a lot of tiny arms, and we just went with it. They dealt with him. His brother was actually like in his place, right? So like the superior spherical sovereign had been away for a little bit, and his brother was watching over things, and that's like why the Devargir decided that it was time to like try to like usurp their ruler. Yeah, dude, definitely Modoc vibes. It's kind of what I was thinking. Modoc, or like Modoc meets Mojo, right? Yeah, the Eggman, right? Also, just I really liked the idea of Humpty Dumpty, right? Just having like Humpty Dumpty as your ruler, and then having to like break him, right? Push him down, push him off a wall or something. It's kind of messed up. It's kind of dark, but got to do it. But it was pretty fun. It was a fun game. Do I have any lands above stuff here? No, I don't. I'll have to do some more stuff for lands above here before the weekend, because lands above players have some really exciting stuff, which let you lands below people know those exciting plans include traveling to the lands below potentially. It's kind of on the books. Like they're getting there. They've got some other stuff happening. So, you know, again, there might be that player crossover moment sort of thing. I don't know if you guys are actually on. I have it where you guys are on like the same sort of like time schedule. So I'll have to take a look at the calendars and dang man, wow, I totally dropped the ball on that. I'm sorry, but I guess I could probably go back and get a rough idea. But like whenever I wrote the campaign notes, Dom, like to have dated them, up um this like kept the exact date for when those moments happened, like an actual journal, rather than just write them out as like a post of what we did that time. Yeah, that would be cool. I'm gonna start doing that. I think have the actual like calendar days. um I think the lands above people are, I think their calendars started earlier, like it takes place at least a month or two before the lands below events of lands below. Not sure. So the Eggman, they fought him. He's dead. Let's talk about. If you remember back, let's do a little throwback here. If you remember back, we had the encounter where the thing like jumps around and claws people, right? And then we had that, and he's sort of like monkey like. Completely changed that up to this bad baby. This dude came out all right. Pretty excited about this. So we have the Mantis Guardian, right, which is just sort of like a human torso, like giant sized, obviously, and then like it's got its fingers that kind of fuse together into these mantis claws, and then it walks around on these like bones, these like skinny, again, tiny hands, tiny arms, right? You gotta have it, but a lot of them. That are just sort of like very thin bones, like wrapped in like fur and chitin and stuff, and then like human hands at the bottom. Yeah, Mantis Guardian, right? So Sam was there doing battle with the Mantis Guardian in that campaign, in that game. Uh, Really fun, really good one, fun encounter, and I was glad to run. I was glad that it turned out as good. Everybody seemed to enjoy that one a little bit. Um, beep beep beep. Mantis Guardian, super tight. Quite pleased. Another thing that is in that game. That's my Friday night game. The Mantis Guardian did like a lot of jumping around and stuff, and then they killed him by shooting him with like a Melf's acid arrow, and then the one player like hacked off all the legs, and it was pretty sweet. Beep. Where is it? What's the one I'm looking for? Nebularis. This is another one that I drew. This is like an older one. But I'm pleased. I just was really pleased with how this turned out. I drew this up pretty quick, and then I was like, oh, dang. Like, sometimes I can draw something and it comes out. It looks pretty good. This dude is, he's like the center of the maze that the Friday night game takes place in. So he's growing, his head is growing into this pillar, and that it's the central pillar in the maze. That everybody like ventures around it and stuff, and he had some cool information for the players. And he was also in a room with this crack in the ground that absorbs all the light. So whenever you like, that was the cool like entry into the room, was that everyone stepped in and they could hear this sound of these birds in these cages. There's also like a bunch of bird cages around the room, and they could hear that. And then whatever light they were carrying got sucked out of their hands and pulled into the craters. So as their lights got dragged across the floor, they shined across this dude, and I just imagine him like with this creepy just kind of groan as light goes over his face, because it was probably the first time he had light on his face in like 100 years or something. So, got to welcome the players to the room. But just pleased with how that turned out. Cool little encounter. What else? You guys have seen the Grim Roller. Big fan of the Grim Roller. I just love him. I like that he's got like an elephant trunk. But let's go back. Kind of wrapping up now. Last 2 minutes. I still got other stuff in that I'm working on. It's just been tough. Kind of busy doing a lot of different things. So I appreciate that you guys keep tuning in, and you've been like recommending the channel to friends and stuff. Still trying to get to 50 subscribers. That's my goal. I need to like tell everybody and get them to come in and hang out and stuff. So if there's anybody else that you know that might be interested in listening to me talk about D&D and playing games and stuff, that would be super fun. But then also I promise that I'm gonna make more videos and have some really worthwhile content where we condense some of the things that we've been talking about and just put them into video form. Yeah, dude, I'm a big fan of the movie 9. I feel like it kind of ended abruptly, if I remember correct. But there is like the monster that is just, aesthetically 100%. Yes, absolutely loved it. Huge fan. The monster that just has, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for people, but also the movie came out like 10 years ago, so at least 10 years ago. The one monster has like the upper half of the one dude like stitched onto its tail, and it like dangles it around like a rattlesnake. But it's like your friend. That's really scary. That's really horrifying. Definitely I like that sort of thing. I like it when it's pretty scary, But again, I hope always make sure that people are cool with it when you put that stuff in there. I hope everybody's been cool with it anytime I've done some kind of scary, dark stuff like that. It can be, not everybody wants that, but I like it. I think it's fun. October's coming up. We got that whole, I try to watch like a horror movie at least once a week. Who am I kidding? At least like once a day. Every day in October. I love it. Love the genre. Don't know why. Just super enjoyable. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Maybe I'll have to come up with something about like Halloween and horror games and stuff. I've run a lot of games that are horror games. I ran a lot of games that turned into horror games. So I guess that's kind of a thing. I should probably talk about it. But thanks for hanging out, everybody, and I'll see Lance above players this weekend for games, and we're gonna have a blast. Very excited about it. And we'll hit the maze also on Friday, and then lands below next week after that. Thanks everybody. You guys have a great night. Take care. Keep decomposing. Thank you.